look at your notes, it would make connection again with the Wernicke's area, and the arcuate fasciculus would again communicate. It has to communicate with the Wernicke's area for written word to translate into spoken word your question, and it will now, the arcuate fasciculus will again connect with your Broca's area for you to enunciate the question, which your answer, which is can you let's locate again the different structures. Anong gusto mo malaman? Okay, superior temporal gyrus. Although we are talking about the inferior parietal lobule, the reason why we had to talk about the superior temporal gyrus is that because the function of the inferior parietal lobule is very much related to the function of the superior temporal gyrus on the left side. Because the superior temporal gyrus contains the transverse gyrus of Heschel at its banks, that's corresponding to Brodmann's area 41 or 42, the primary auditory area. And as you hear the word, you will understand its meaning at the Wernicke's area for spoken word, Brodmann's area 22. Which, if you are asked to communicate or answer a question, a verbal question, would communicate with the Broca's area via the arcuate fasciculus. On the other hand, the angular gyrus here at the tip of your sylvian fissure is the Broca's area for written word, and if you are asked a written question but you have to answer it verbally, it would communicate, it would go first to the Wernicke's area for spoken word to translate into spoken word your the perception. Then it would again communicate with the Broca's area via the arcuate fasciculus for you to answer or frame into words your answer to the written question. Okay? Now, so that's the important part of the inferior parietal lobule. Your angular gyrus, which is the Wernicke's area for spoken word. The other part of the inferior parietal lobule is, if you follow your superior temporal sulcus, this is your supramarginal gyrus. So the two together, angular and supramarginal, comprises your inferior parietal lobule. And we have already taken up the parts of the temporal gyrus, the superior temporal lobe, superior, middle, and inferior temporal. Okay? Now let's go to the, dorsolaterally, you can see the occipital lobe here, but its parts are better appreciated in the mid-sagittal section. Okay? Now, if you look at this mid-sagittal section of the brain, you're looking at the left. Are you looking at the medial surface of the left brain, or are you looking at the medial surface of the right brain? Left. Again, left. Okay? And this is the corpus callosum, which is the biggest commissural fiber, which connects the left and the right side of the brain. The corpus callosum has these different parts: the rostrum, the genu or the bend, the body, and the splenium. Yung part na nakakonect, yun ang genu. Yung part na free, yun ang splenium. The genu interconnects the prefrontal lobe with each other. So, isipin mo, ito ang left, ito ang right. Ano pinaka-connect niya? Prefrontal. Okay? And then, the body, the anterior part of the body would be interconnecting the frontal, the primary motor, and then this part of the body interconnects the parietal lobe with each other. Okay? while the splenium interconnects the occipital lobe with each other. Now, this is your diencephalon, or specifically your thalamus. And this is the hypothalamic sulcus, and this area here is the hypothalamus. Na-identify nyo pa ba that this is your midbrain and this is your pons? Because if you look at this is your corpora quadrigemina, this is your superior colliculus, and this is the inferior colliculus, kalahati. Okay? So this is the midbrain and this is your pons. Okay? So this must be your cerebral aqueduct. Okay. We'll look first at the different parts. So this is again your corpus callosum. What part is this? This one, body, splenium. What does the genu do? Interconnects the prefrontal cortex. Ito, frontal and parietal. Ito, occipital. Okay. Above the corpus callosum is the callosal sulcus. And above the callosal sulcus, you can see a gyrus which follows the curvature of your corpus callosum. And this is the cingulate gyrus, which is part of your limbic lobe. Your basal and limbic lobe. Na-lecture na ba yun sa inyo? Okay? So, above your cingulate gyrus is your bakit kayo galit sa kanya? Ibig sabihin, nagbasa na siya. Above your cingulate gyrus is your cingulate sulcus. And then, di ba sabi natin, ano ito ulit? Paracentral lobule. Okay, good. And the anterior part is motor in function, and the posterior paracentral lobule is sensory, but the part of the body represented here is your buttocks, lower extremities, and genitals. Okay. Now, this part here is the occipital lobe. You can see that it is separated from this part of the parietal lobe by the parieto-occipital sulcus. So, look at the splenium. Sa lower end ng splenium, merong deep sulcus na nag-originate at pataas. And it's easy to remember its name since it separates the parietal from the occipital, parieto-occipital sulcus. Now, this part of the parietal lobe in front, anterior to the parieto-occipital, you call this anatomically the precuneus. Precuneus. Although, it's the medial surface. While this one, of course, would be your superior parietal lobule, di ba? Now, so this part, posterior to the parieto-occipital, is your occipital lobe. And it's divided into two parts, the cuneus and the lingual gyrus. And they are separated into the occipital lobe is divided into the cuneus above and the lingual gyrus below by your calcarine sulcus or fissure. And where is your primary visual area? Along the banks of your calcarine. Okay, therefore, if this is the calcarine fissure or sulcus, the area above and the area below corresponds to your primary visual area. Brodmann's area 17. While your secondary visual areas above and below further, enabling you to perceive color, motion, shape, are your secondary visual areas. Brodmann's area 18-19. Okay? So that's the importance of the occipital lobe. Again, separated from the parietal lobe by the parieto-occipital sulcus, divided into cuneus and lingual gyrus by the calcarine fissure or sulcus, along the banks of which the cortex above and below that corresponds to the primary visual area or Brodmann's area 17. Okay? Now, since we're looking already at the mid-sagittal surface, you know that part of the ventricular system is found within your lateral ventricle is the part of the ventricular system inside your cortical region. So you have, this is the lateral ventricle.